First episode of Buenos Dias.
Buenos dias.
Hello, everybody. If you're joining us for the first episode, we are doing this for the first time together.
We welcome you.
It's gonna be fun. We're gonna talk about pretty much what's going on. We live in LA. How did we get here? And just overall a little bit about us. And if you guys have questions, we may be able to answer that. So hope you enjoy. But yeah, we live in LA. Why did we come to LA?
So it's 2022. We moved here in July 2018.
Yes.
So I finished undergrad, go Fighting Illini, although
Yes.
we technically don't have a mascot. I finished my bachelor's there, U of I. And then we just like went straight through. Basically that summer we decided I was coming to UCLA. The decision was between Chicago, Los Angeles, and Durham, North Carolina, which is like surprising because I feel, for just like a personal note, I was gonna be between like Chicago. I thought prestige was everything, but it was it was down to UCLA and Durham because the professor at Duke was awesome. You remember that?
Yeah, I remember. Obviously, I'm a bystander in this. I mean, I was a part of the decision making process, but obviously, I had a job in Chicago, and they were willing to work with me to go wherever that may be. So super grateful for that, because it allowed Rebecca and I to kind of think more freely about our decision. And again, to Rebecca's point, leading up to it, UChicago was such a big hope that you had.
It was like my undergraduate dream, and I didn't get in.
Yeah.
So
a big deal, obviously, when you inevitably did get the chance when going to grad school. But when we really started talking about it, I knew the moment you brought up California, wherever it was, that I wanted to go there.
You're like, I'm not gonna tell her, but I want to.
Well, because I wanted to be the supportive boyfriend, allow for Rebecca to apply wherever you wanted to go. But I knew deep down, if I wanted to get out of Chicago. I had lived there more or less my whole life, but California, it's the dream, right? Like, that's what I wanted. California dreaming. So it inevitably, you got in many places all over the country, but
surprise, I also forgot, but like I shouldn't forget about it. I also got into USC, which is also here in Los Angeles. So either way, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
but
you got into some Texas ones. Like, I remember that.
Did I?
Yeah, I thought you got into a Texas school that your dad really wanted you to go to.
Oh no, he wanted me to go to UT Austin because at the time they were living in Laredo. But I never applied.
Okay,
because I didn't want to be that close. Which is, I love you, Dad, but
yes,
this is better.
But again, so it came down to UCLA, UChicago, and one in Duke. And I knew that, like, to what you just said, like, Chicago was kind of at the bottom of the list for me personally, because I wanted to get out of there. Yeah. I wanted to leave. If you went to Chicago, our life would have stayed exactly the same. And I was looking for something. So even if that was Duke, which technically would have been more money.
Dude, they give a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah, for all my folks out there interested in PhDs, like, and it's not everything. Obviously, we're a prime example of it, but the packages are different. And Duke is a great institution because they really support their graduate students.
Yeah. Yeah, so I remember it being a pretty good amount of money. And UCLA
for graduate
for graduate,
let's be
go in with the right expectations, because you're not going to make,
most people don't make over 50.
So it was good money, and that's a huge pro. The cost of living, everything was leaning Duke for that. But in terms of our gut, though, I just remember having conversations about it. And when you visited all the places, like, the gut was very specifically screaming California.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm all in on this. So
yeah,
it also was probably the hardest, like, just physically and it, like, geographically, to go all the way to California versus these other two places. But hey, we made that happen. So 4 years later, Here we are in LA. Very much have no regrets.
Yeah.
We've, for those who don't know, Rebecca is very vegan, has been vegan for what, like 5 years?
It's almost 6 years.
Almost 6 years?
Maybe, 5.5, 6 years.
It's been a while.
Person loses count, yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while. At this point, no one's counting because it's just a lifestyle. And I am mainly vegan. AKA, I eat most of Rebecca's food that she makes. And when I typically eat out, we do typically eat vegan. But if there are some things where I'm being a little bit more indulgent, so I'm from England, so I'm big into fish and chips. I don't really have that here.
Technically, George is not an American citizen.
Yes.
Yeah. He's very much a UK passport. Yeah, you indulge when we go on
Yes. Vacation. Yes, I am an immigrant. Yeah, so I'll indulge sometimes when we go to England, and I'll have my seafood here and there. And then the only other thing I'll sometimes indulge in is if like a dessert has some sort of dairy in it. I'll also do that because I love dessert. So, but outside of that, like we don't eat any meat. Outside of meat for seafood sometimes, and I did had a recent spin of eating eggs, but we stopped that as well. I don't really eat cheese. Like that doesn't sit well for us anymore. Because even for me, it's like 4 years?
Yeah, I think it was really hard for you because you've always been so busy with work.
Yeah.
Just like your schedule has always been different from my schedule. And I'm a huge advocate. This like remote work during the pandemic has been, I've known this is my lifestyle since I was in high school. I was like, I can do a 9 to 5 if I really wanted to, but I enjoy the like be on campus, go to conferences, go to meetings.
Yeah.
And you've always just been so grind heavy.
Yes.
Like insanity.
Yeah.
And so I feel like just because of convenience, like we're not really, I mean, not to like go on a huge tangent, but like both of you and I did not have like a formal cooking introduction. We weren't taught how to cook. We had to like figure it out ourselves. So like when I first went vegan, you and I weren't living together. We were doing long distance, which we've done for a very long time before, up until moving to LA. But
it's probably a whole other podcast.
I know. There's so many. It's so many wonderful things we could talk about. But yeah, slowly but surely, what helped was living together, and we could meal prep for both of ourselves, and it made your life easier.
Yeah, because when I was living alone and working, and I've been full time since I was 17.
Yeah.
How
old are you now, Georgie?
As of
for the viewers,
as of 2 days ago, I'm 28.
Yeah.
So the big 28. Really looking forward to this year. We'll get into it, but yeah. So I mean, it's been over a decade where I've worked full time, and way earlier, like in the early part of our relationship, because we've been together almost 10 years.
Yeah.
I really got into meal prepping, like before you did. Like,
yeah, you definitely.
I was like, meal prep, is life, and
put on the Instagram story.
Yeah, like
slow cooking it up. Yeah.
Yeah. So meal prep, I've done that for a long time, but it wasn't extravagant meals. Like they were very meat heavy, or just like pasta or pizza, or I don't know, like random stuff. So anyway.
Pulled pork too.
Yeah. So just simple things you can meal prep that, I still advocate for, just so that you don't eat out as much. But going back to why I brought this up and why we're vegan, right, is because of us being vegan, and that's a whole other thing we could talk about. But relative to this today topic, LA is huge for veganism.
Yeah.
So like Chicago has its places, right? Like we've enjoyed a few. But we've never been to a place like LA that has had so many diverse, amazing options.
And like so incredibly delicious.
Yeah.
Like inarguably so, like even competing with the actual thing.
Oh yeah.
Right? I would argue. And so it's really a mecca for all my vegans out there.
Yeah. Like again, this will probably end up being a whole other topic, but like for my birthday, we got some vegan pizza that I love. It's called Purgatory Pizza.
It's on the East LA side, also rep in East LA because they don't get enough credit.
It's very good. They have specific types of pizza from all over the world. So like Chicago deep dish, Detroit style, Sicilian style, like many other different types of pizzas. And all their pizzas can be either regular, aka like real dairy, real meat, whatever you want, or it can be vegan. So vegan cheese, vegan meat, and everything. So very delicious, but that's like one of a billion examples I can think of.
Yeah.
In the last 4 years. We've had amazing Asian food, Italian pasta at Pura Vida, chicken fried sandwiches, like just amazing amazing food. So that's been a huge perk, and one thing that we've really enjoyed being in LA is obviously the food, but the area. Like, you love to hike, like the mountains that we've had. Like, you hike more than I do.
Yeah, in terms of an active lifestyle, I feel like LA, also because when we lived in Chicago, let me just have a little side note here, because recently had a little dinner. I mean, it was months ago now, but I feel like the vegan scene in Chicago has really been lighting up. And so just like from our browses on social media, like on Instagram, I'm super impressed with like the vegan scene since we've left in the past 4 years. I feel like it was just Chicago Diner and like an occasional fast food restaurant that did vegan stuff. And now it's kind of just really, they have more. I think they even have like vegan deep dish, which is great. But in terms of LA, like if you're into, I don't know, it's beautiful weather, 360 days a year. There's like 5 days of the year where winter happens and it's rain because we're in a desert. And so the nice thing about the west side, the east side gets a little hotter, but you're just so close to the ocean. So everything is super moderate. If you go to the ocean, it can be cold in, you know, a sort of like subjective term. But yeah, we go, I love to hike. It's like honestly the best thing ever. But you know, there's trails in Chicago which are amazing. Like I grew up on those. There's also much better for running. I think trail running in the Midwest is far superior. But it's so limited because like we were on the phone the other day with one of our friends and it was like April and it's 40 degrees outside.
Yeah, you can only, I mean, you can do it like I've ran, you know, there and here, but you do have to kind of deal with the punches of whatever that day is like. Like you can't, you can plan the best you can in Chicago, but you know, one day can be 65 and perfect running weather, and what some days the next day it could be 30 and you know, really painful when you're running. But yeah, I mean, so I mean the food here, the area with the mountains and the ocean, all of it's been amazing. It's also though been like really the first time Rebecca and I have actually lived together. Like we had we've done long distance when she was in undergrad, and so on pretty much every year we're cycling out of different apartments for her or dorms or whatever it is at the time of the relationship. But by the end of that and coming over to LA, we've lived officially together, and in this specific apartment, this is the longest running we've actually lived in the same apartment together. So it's actually home, very, very homey to us. And that kind of transitions me, I guess, into the next question I had is just like, what are some of the things we're going to miss here? Because for those who don't know, we're moving to Mexico.
Go watch our intro video.
Yeah, watch our video. We're going to Mexico City. We'll get into the why here in a second. But yeah, I think one of the big things, I'll speak for both of us, is we're going to miss this home. We're going to miss this apartment. We have all of our stuff. We have, you know, so many memories here, good, bad, everything that you know, it's gonna be tough to start packing this place up in the next couple of days.
I know.
But what other things are we thinking we might miss in Mexico?
Or you mean in LA?
Or sorry, in LA. I'm sorry. Mexico's on top of mine.
It's always there. I mean, the apartment is so, and it's also not even like a super nice, like elegant. So just backstory for people that are interested. We moved to Beverly Hills our very first year. Like that was our apartment. Like
when we drove cross country, we went to Beverly Hills.
Yeah, we drove. We didn't fly. We like did the whole U-Haul thing. And one would assume that like it was super expensive. LA, that's one of the disadvantages. Like it's an overly priced city. It's just very sought after, and things are expensive, especially rent, and it's problematic. And we thought we were gonna bring, George had a German Shepherd for a very long time, Thunder. And so when we first decided to move out here, we like purposefully looked for an apartment that allowed for a dog. So we were paying for this apartment. It was nice, whatever. And it was just like filled with roaches and like first floor, not, really, I don't know. It's just dumb. It was really sloppy landlord.
It just wasn't homey.
Yeah.
It was a really nice location. We're not going to complain about being in Beverly Hills, right? Like it's
for sure.
It's literally a famous place in the world. But it wasn't. Yeah.
You're choosing to live.
It wasn't homey. We weren't really taken care of when we tried to ask for help from these guys, and it just continuously spiraled into a very stressful situation for us both while we're still getting acclimated to the area and all that stuff. So we were able to get out of there. Very like perfect timing too, because it happened in February of 2020. So a month before the pandemic started hitting us, we were able to get out of there.
I remember that, yeah.
And it was also like right when I was able to switch jobs to Target, which was huge because I was unemployed for unwillingly unemployed for 2 months.
Wow, what a life we've lived.
Yeah, it was just a rough couple. The end of 2019 was pretty rough. We were dealing with this apartment. I got unemployed and all this. But by the beginning of 2020, a couple months of hard work and getting our life together a little bit, we were able to come to this apartment. And I also had a new job that was really good. Like it was actually in Westwood, which is where UCLA is.
Westwood is the shit.
And it was just, again, the stars kind of realigned for us, and we're very grateful for that. So yeah, since then, we've had the full pandemic in this apartment. We've had different issues happen with us physically that we've gone through together, and just
a lot of bonding,
a lot of good things. Like I proposed in this apartment. Like there's so many other things that happen in this apartment. So it's gonna be sad. Like I do think I'm gonna miss the food. I'm gonna miss the mountains and the ocean and the climate is it's 60 to 80 pretty much year round.
Yeah.
And in Mexico, it's going to be significantly hotter. It's going to be
humid.
Yeah, a lot more humid. Mosquitoes, other types of creatures
that I'm deathly afraid of as well. For anyone very phobic of exotic, scary looking things,
bugs and all that stuff.
Black widow spiders and roaches. Yeah.
So, but there will be really good food in Mexico and all that I am looking forward to. But I do, again, going back to it, I think this apartment for us both is probably the hardest thing to let go.
Yeah.
And we're shooting to have another podcast episode sometime next week, and we'll talk about that a little bit more because we'll be packing and we'll talk about the experience. But for today, we just kind of want to get into Mexico a little bit. Why are we going there? So why are we going? What's taking us to Mexico?
That's my hot topic, right?
Yes.
I'm the leader on this question.
Yeah.
Well, so I've known basically when you do a PhD in history and most humanities, archaeology, sociology, and you study a place that is not here in the United States, you often go on leave. It's called field work for a year. And so my specific work is centered on basically being Indiana Jones, not in the those are mainly my archaeologist friends, because you're in the dusting, throwback to Jurassic Park movies, looking at the bones and stuff, but I am in the libraries. And so my dissertation focuses on a very specific topic, so I need to live in this country for an extended amount of time. And because everything lives there, it's not like everything is online. Most things are online, but we go and study in specific places that cover our topic in order to write our dissertation, which is eventually how you complete a PhD program in the social sciences. And so, that's why we're going. But you can do this in a variety of ways. And the way that we're doing it is through this Fulbright Award, which is a nice award that you apply to. Very stressful.
Well, yeah. So before you get into that part, pretty much to Rebecca's point, she has known when she's been in grad school, like this is
Yeah.
part of the process, right? Like this is something that will inevitably have to happen. And so like for years we've been talking about it. Like
Yeah.
it's been like, hey, heads up, like, you know, in the early years of your graduate career, you're not really
Yeah.
doing any of that. Like you dabble like a couple weeks here and there in the summers or something, but you know, it's doable. It's nothing insane. But there is a period, like
Yeah.
you just said, where you have to go for an extended period of time, and sometimes it's not it's not a whole year. Like sometimes
No,
it's
yeah.
like scattered here and there. But well, we have talked about it pretty much.
Well, because
And-
it's been, you know, not to like interrupt, but I do think it's important to know for folks out there that might be listening, like it's kind of a daunting thing because for couples or individuals who have been abroad, being abroad is glamorized, but it's really hard.
Yeah.
Like, especially if you don't know the language, it's a totally different culture. And being away for a year is much longer than being away for 4 months, which we've done, and like it's a whole other story. And so I've known the moment when I was applying to grad school, even like my senior year, I was working with a professor, and he was like, you know, typically like you have to explain everything what it's like to be in these kinds of programs, especially if you're going with a partner, because if you're moving across a country, this is a big commitment. And thankfully, you've always known and like have been part of that conversation, which has been super supportive, and I'm forever grateful. And we just didn't know when it was going to happen, how it was going to happen. The pandemic hit, and a lot of students got, you know, their
delayed.
lives turned upside down. Yeah, and so we took a while to find out about the award because of the pandemic, but when we did, we figured it out, and it's been a lot of planning.
Well, yeah. So I mean, that's what I was gonna say is like, you know, in talking about this for years before you even went to try to get this award that we'll get into, you know, there was never a clear plan of Georgia's going with, like, because there's so much unknown that we don't know when it's going to happen, which means we don't know where I'm going to be, like my job or my life. Like, we don't know where I'll be personally or where we'll be. And then the other thing is, like, you don't really know how long you're going to be gone for. It could be a couple months. It could be a whole year. And so there's been, you know, years of conversations of like, hey, let's get mentally prepared for me not to go. And then there's been other times where I'm thinking, hey, maybe I should go. But what does that mean for the job? What I'm doing? And there's so much involved. And so, again, the pandemic kind of threw things for a loop, and you start to not think about that as much, and you start just dealing with your life through the pandemic. But through that, Rebecca did apply for a award. It's called the Fulbright Award. You can get into like what it is, and then we can kind of talk about like our decision making post the award.
Yeah. So the Fulbright is it's like an umbrella term to describe a couple awards that are under the Fulbright, but just like for very like simplistic terms, there's the Fulbright for US like studies and research, because we are at an American institution and like people care about US history and like things that are done here. And then there's a whole other one called the Fulbright Hays, which is for individuals seeking to go to primarily non-Western countries. And that's a very big point that they want to make, like very adamant. It's for folks that are studying places not considered in the US and Canada, unless you're doing Empire, and that's where we fit in, and the Western Europe, because, and I think maybe even Eastern Europe as well, but it really is to encourage people to study things outside of English and like the Western sort of first world countries. And so because I study Mexico, this is why we're going there. And so that's primarily, the award allows you can choose up to 6 months to a full year. And for our situation, because we're going to Mexico, this is what I study. I study women. This could be like a whole other podcast, but you can also apply to go to 2 countries, 2 non-Western countries, or the country that was at one time either colonial or imperial power. And for us, that was, well, I studied the colonial period, so like that's Spain. And that's why we got to go to Spain, specifically like Seville, for the other half of the time, the other 6 months. And so why Mexico City? Why Seville? Mexico City, and normally this is very common, the capitals of countries, like there's the Library of Congress here in the United States in Washington, D.C., that is very similar, but in Mexico, it's the Archivo General de la Nación, and that's like where everything is housed from the colonial period and the modern period. So that's why we're going to Mexico City, and in Seville, little history. No, and I'm starting to get excited because I feel like I'm at like a nice. It's just fun to talk about history things. Seville was a very. I mean, now it's considered a smaller city in comparison to like Madrid and Barcelona, but Sevilla very much was like this trading capital of the Spanish Empire because there's the river, and the river would connect to the Atlantic Ocean, and so many of these ships would go, and so. In Seville, there's the Archivo General de Indias, which is basically like for any of you that remember Christopher Columbus, like the Indies was where he was going, which is basically Spanish America, Hispanic America, or Latin America, what we recognize today. And so that's why we're going to Seville, because they have an archive there as opposed to Madrid. Madrid has an amazing archive, but for my purposes, Seville is like a place I really want to visit. It's like the capital at one point, not the capital, but just like so crucial in the time period of history that I study. And it'll be nice to be there in the archive, and it'll be a smaller city, a different situation. So that's like what the award is. And you can do this for like different countries, different times of history.
Yeah, but it's important to mention because you completely skipped over this.
Oh, classic.
Rebecca got the award.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
That is a big deal. Like, we obviously are talking about what this award is, and like this is a nationally recognized thing. Like she said, there's two different ones. There's US based, and then there's the Hayes Award. But not a lot of people get the award. Like, it's a very competitive, very sought after program, if you will. And Rebecca received that award, and it was kind of like we're on the edges of our seat for months because you applied for this last year.
The formal application was due February 2020, I think.
No, because we moved here.
No.
It would have been 2021. So she applied last year, 2 years ago now, because wait, what year is it?
2022.
Okay, so never mind. Last year in February, but we were expecting to hear by the summer. Yeah. So like June, July-ish, maybe August. We were expecting to hear by the summer, and we didn't. It took like
September. I remember it was like right near my birthday.
Yeah, around that, I think. And we were told again initially that we'd have to leave like right away the next year. So 2022 January is like what they wanted and all this stuff. So anyway, you got the award. Congrats, because that's a big deal. But for a while we weren't. It's not that I didn't have hope you wouldn't get it, but I don't think either of us like were thinking, oh, this is a surefire thing. Yeah. So we weren't really thinking about the potential plan that would have to come if it did happen. Like, we had moments of like, what if this does happen? Like, what are we going to do? What are our thoughts? And we had those conversations. But once you got it, it was like, all right, we got to really figure out, like, one, is George going? Yeah. Two, if he's not, like, what are we going to do? Because I'd have to pay for everything here. You'd have to pay for your own stuff there and all this stuff, right? And so then I come in, because you just did your whole spiel. We inevitably decided that I was going to go. And, for people that, it wasn't an easy decision, right? For those who don't know, I worked at Target for since the beginning of the pandemic, like I said, and really liked the job, really liked the people I work with. Great location. Like, it was, everything you want, right? In your typical kind of, job. It pays the bills, but you're happy to be there. So, HR. And it was HR. So I'm working. It's typically what I do. I like working with people. I like training, developing people, and so on. So, I'm at this job, and Rebecca gets this news, and we have to make a decision. Okay, or am I going or not? And when we did decide that I am going to go, I already knew, being in HR, what the options were for me in terms of being able to keep the job, take a leave of absence, or whatever the options are. And because we were leaving for so long, there really wasn't an avenue available for me to be able to keep the job. Yeah. I even talked to them about remote options and all this stuff. And inevitably, I came to terms with more or less quitting the job. Definitely not burning any bridges there. The people there know that, you know, this wasn't an easy decision. They're very clear on like what our situation is. They know what's happening. They know we're going to Mexico and Spain. And again, everything is good between me and Target. I have no issues with them, but this was just the option that we wanted to do, right? Because for those who maybe are curious, we're losing a lot of money by me doing this. So like in terms of income streams coming through, I am at the exact moment right now making zero money. So again, we have savings. We're okay. I'm not worried about that.
You're looking at the breadwinner.
Yeah, but Rebecca is the breadwinner. She is the one bringing in the moolah, the dinero. But so that was that play. All these things take into a factor because Rebecca brought up earlier. You know, going abroad is glamorized, right?
Yeah, really.
And I want to be very clear. We are super grateful for this opportunity.
100%.
Very excited, not taking it for granted to be able to go to these places, be a guest in these countries, and fully experience it for a year, 100%. But at the same time, it's very important to acknowledge, you know, we're losing our home, we're losing income, we're losing all of our stuff. We're bringing
for a year.
For a year. We're putting into storage, and we're taking 4 suitcases worth of stuff with us. So whatever we can shove into those is coming with. But, you know, it's a big deal for anyone watching who is sitting here in their home and they're watching this video, right? Or listening to this podcast. You're surrounded by things that make you feel good. They make you feel comfortable and happy. And, you know, you get your dishes and your couch and your bed and your pillow and your toilet. Like there's so many things that you know that you come in and you know you're going to close the door and you're like, cool, I can debrief. I'm happy. I'm good. And we won't really have that type of comfort for a whole year. But so like that's a huge thing we're sacrificing. We're sacrificing the income. But again, I love HR. I love Target and stuff. But Rebecca's known, and some people who are close to me know that I really, really like making content. I'm a very kind of creative person. So whether that's making videos, drawing, writing, you know, being on TikTok, Instagram, taking pictures, like I love all of that stuff. And
you always have to.
Yeah, it's like even at work, like I'll make flyers and I'll take a bunch of pictures and all this stuff that has never been at the forefront of my job. And I don't have a degree or anything that allows me to get a job that's in that realm. And so again, that was also part of the decision-making process for us to decide, okay, if I'm unemployed and we're making these sacrifices, right? And Rebecca's taken on the breadwinner role, then she's given me the opportunity to pretty much be able to explore this stuff through the whole year and be able to do stuff like this, right? Like that, you know, this is kind of what we're excited about because, you know, I'd much rather live a much more humble life for the whole next year. And
but what is a year? Like, you know what I mean? It's also such an important point. Like, you've worked your ass off for a very long time, and we finally come to a point where, like, after both working very hard and like living a lifestyle, living within our means, we now are in a place where I can give you time to work on things you want to work on. And like, I think that that's so important, but it's also just a year of your life. Like, I'm a huge Gary Vee fan, so I think, and I'm inspired by him a lot. And just the idea of like a single year of your life to do something that you've always wanted to do, or like have something just like kind of come out of nowhere and the opportunity arises, take it, because when else in life is this going to happen? And so like, I agree, it's hard to be financially making less money for a year, but at the same time, like, you're going to gain the opportunity to live abroad, to basically be your own boss and do whatever you want. And so, I agree.
And I think, again, like being able to explore all of that, you know, both personally and and professionally, like what skills can I develop over the time and make that much more better. Learning Spanish. I don't know Spanish, so I've been learning with the old Duolingo for like 100 days now. Like I've been doing a streak. We're in bed last night and I was like, shit, I didn't do my Spanish, and I had to really quick do it. But you know, I pick up words and I'm definitely better than I was 100 days ago. But I'm really looking forward to being in both of these places and being able to practice actually conversing with someone in, you know, the native tongue of where, you know, these languages are predominantly. And just throw myself right into that because, you know, it's been a goal of mine to learn Spanish for a while. Rebecca is Mexican and her family, like many of them prefer to speak Spanish. And so just being able to converse, you know, with my now extended family to be able to do that is just going to be something I've always wanted to do, and it's been something we've wanted to do. So I'm excited to learn Spanish. I'm excited to dive into these skills, explore these places together, and I'm also excited to do this, like this content between us both.
It's fun.
Yeah, and it's just going to be a good time. So, oh my. I think my headphones just died.
Huh? Sorry.
No, it's fine. Oh no, it worked again.
Little technical difficulty.
Yeah, there we go. I think it worked. I don't know what happened right there. It was weird. So
back on getting the neurons.
Lost my train of thought.
You were talking about learning Spanish.
Yeah, just like so we've talked about why we came to LA and like the different things that we like about it, and why we're going to Mexico. And a few different things of like why we're excited about going to Mexico. Obviously, we're going to Spain, right? But Mexico is very top of mind because we're going to Mexico at the end of this month. We're going to Mexico, so like in the next couple of days, we'll be packing this apartment. We'll be driving to Arizona because that's where Rebecca's parents live, and we'll be hanging out with them until we leave for Mexico, like a week before the end of the month. So that's very top of mind for us. We haven't even planned Spain yet because you can't; it's too far out. But for people curious about the timeline, we're pretty much going to be in Mexico, from end of May all the way through to beginning of November, and then from there we're going to be in Spain like from November to the following like May
2023.
Yeah. So a whole year truly abroad of living in these places. We'll get into kind of like again in a different episode or in a different video, we'll talk about like how we've done it, like in terms of the different moving stuff we've done and like where are we staying and how do you figure all that out. Like that's a whole different topic. But in terms of like, I guess the only other thing really I wanted to bring up is like, what are our feelings? Like, how are we feeling about? How
are you feeling, Georgia?
I'm feeling good. Like, so I mean, the thing that I think going to be most emotional about is going to be leaving this apartment, leaving our home. But once that's done, and we're like driving to Arizona, we're flying to Mexico, I feel like I'll be at a certain mode that kind of gets us through it, or gets me through it. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm nervous about being in Mexico strictly because I don't speak Spanish. So for those who don't like, this is really important. Obviously it's easier to say, you know, like it's easy to just like think, oh, he doesn't speak Spanish, like it's not that bad or it's not that hard or whatever. But like I went to France when you were in France, and I don't speak French either. So when I went, and that was just for like 10 days, you are completely, it's not that people don't know English, but you're completely outcasted. Like, just like, it's not anyone's fault but your own. Like, you're throwing yourself into a place that's not where you're used to. They don't speak predominantly English. And if they do, they don't really want to.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just like, you know, it's it's a completely different experience, and it's very alienating. It's very sometimes scary, if like, especially if like your phone doesn't work. Like there's different elements that if you've never done it before, you're not really going to think about until you're thrown into it. But I have experienced it before. Spanish is a little bit easier for me than French because I've been around it at work, and I've been around it with Rebecca's family and Rebecca herself, that I can understand people and like rough topics of conversation. And I'm better now after practicing a little bit, but it's still something where I can't just go, I don't know if I'll be able to walk alone somewhere and like ask a question. Like I'm going to try, like that's part of what I want to do. But it's going to be very like alienating in the beginning. It's
so tough. And I think also, I mean, every country is different in the way that they receive expats or foreigners or travelers, tourists, whatever your reason for being in that country is. Thankfully, for the most part, I would tend to side on this. I would tend to say that people in Mexico are helpful to foreigners, especially in Mexico City, because there are a lot of tourists. So like in comparison to other parts of the world, I mean, my own experience in other places has been a little bit more negative. And here, like, they'll hopefully, you know, accept the Google Translate efforts. But it is hard. It's really scary. And like, I for sure, like, we all experience it if you go abroad. And I'm not talking about like, it's very different when you go to a hotel. Very different when you go to like
if you're going to Cancun,
a resort.
Like in Cancun, Mexico, like that's a whole other world. Like that's pretty much like a hub of like tourist American like area.
It's like foreigners. So like it's basically like a lot of English can be spoken in those places. And so if you have a question, there's normally people there that like they hire that speak English in the case of like you know, the need to translate. And so here, like, we're doing Airbnb, like, don't get me wrong, like, the host speaks English and, like, can help us and stuff. But when you're on the ground, you're trying to get, like
I'm talking about grocery store. I'm talking about, like, taco stand, like, anything really, like, Uber even. Like,
it's very different.
Like, there's a variety of factors involved. Like, at the airport, you land and it's all Spanish. Like, there's not, you know.
Welcome.
So, that would be, like, my biggest thing, just because you're already in a foreign country, you're away from your stuff, you already feel a little homesick or whatever, and so adding that element on top of it can definitely stress me out. But with that said, I mean, you know this with our conversations, I'm very excited to just like fully embrace the culture again. Like my mindset when going into really any of these places is like, hey, I'm a guest in this country. You know, I just want to listen to the community, listen to the people I meet, and learn from them. And, you know, what are the best places to go to? You know, what's the best food to try? And going in kind of with those expectations versus expecting really anything. Like, we have plans to go to obviously a variety of different food places that we've looked at, and obviously different excursions like the pyramids and you know, many other things. And on top of that, we also have a variety of people that want to come visit us that I'm excited about. So
there's a little bit of every emotion.
Yeah, it's a little bit of everything, right? Like this is I can't think of anyone you know, that or very few people that are doing this type of thing. It's not super common to just take your whole life, shove everything into a storage box and go to a different country, right? Like that's like some eat, pray, love stuff.
It really is some eat, pray, love stuff.
So it is and you know, I'm officially unemployed too. Like that's also a whole other thing I've been dealing with, my emotions of that the last week of how does that, you know, obviously saying goodbye and all that is one thing, but for anyone who's been unemployed, you're kind of like aimless a little bit, like, you know, what do I do? What am I doing?
There's transition for sure. Like having a full-time, like your attention is, you know, your routine at work. And so it's now figuring out a routine of a different kind of work. And so like that's, I think some people experience that in the past 2 years, but like you were a an essential worker.
Yeah,
So during the
I was.
pandemic, your life didn't change in terms of like your schedule too much. If anything, it was a little bit more rigorous at points because your hours were extended, but or just like, messy because of the pandemic and having
Yeah.
to deal with the shifts. But yeah, it's something that
Yeah.
should be done.
Yeah. So again, I'm a little bit of ball of everything right now.
Yeah.
But how do you feel?
I'm excited. I'm a ball of like a bunch of emotions. I think I'm very excited. I'm also overwhelmingly nervous because there's so much to take like into account. And I think my emotions will hit me in waves because right now I'm feeling excited to like, but also sad to pack everything in the apartment. I think we're so close to the moving date that like in my mind it's just kind of like let's get it over with.
Mm-hmm.
I want to start packing now.
It's like adrenaline.
Yeah, it's almost a little like it's like I'm just kind of counting down minutes until we pack. Like you see the boxes, like you do, you have everything in mind. And so I think sifting through the stuff, it's always like refreshing to go through stuff when you're moving because you get rid of things you no longer use and you keep a lot of good things. The moving is stressful, but at the same time, we got a really great service that will allow us to make that much more seamless than us both doing it. So I'm grateful for that. We're going to see my parents, so that's amazing.
Yeah,
I can't wait to see them. They're amazing and wonderful, and I love them until, amazing. Like my parents, how do you not get excited to see them? But I do feel nervous going to Mexico because this is like it. Mexico and Spain. This is the defining year that really needs to be productive. I really need to take advantage of my time there. And the pandemic has hit every country differently. Like they're still dealing with some of the ramifications. The archive was shut down for so long, or like it was just impossible to get a reservation, to even consult documents.
Yeah.
So there's pressure there that makes me feel a little worried, but at the same time positive because it is opening up. I do feel like one of the great, like at least one of my personal goals, and I would say we probably share this goal with like the kind of content that we wish to make and why we're making content in the first place about this experience is like, for me, one of the reasons why I do history is I think a lot of American media doesn't really necessarily display peoples of other culture appropriately, nor is it significant enough for a person to learn enough about that culture or that person or that situation. And it's a hard job. Like, I'm not trying to blame anybody. It's not easy to go read a million books on a topic.
Yeah.
But I do want to share, like, of course, I have it with my students when I'm a TA. Like, I try to tell them, like, it's so important for you to experience different things in different cultures because so much of it is overwhelmingly good rather than bad. And so that's one of the main things we want to do with this platform is like talk about what it's like for us to go abroad and experience different cultures in Mexico and in Spain, and amongst those, like talk about our different experiences, the good and the bad, because not everything is going to be rainbows. So I'm feeling excited and nervous, probably the big swath of emotions that we should be feeling, but overwhelmingly grateful that we get to go together because having to do this by myself, like I can do it, but at what cost? I don't want to be away from my loved ones for too long. So that is probably the greatest gift that is going to come out of this is like being able to do this journey together. Like both of us, this will be something that we remember for the rest of our lives and like tell our grandchildren about because that's one of the great perks. But I'm feeling excited and it'll be even better when our family is there. And so
and being able to share it with them and like just going off of like what you just said about our platform and like some of the goals we have, because I think it was an important thing that you brought up is, there are some preconceived notions about certain places all over the world, right? Mexico included, Spain, but I think I think Mexico specifically has kind of a bad rap, being so close to the U.S. and it's news in general I think is tiered negative. Even U.S. news is very tailored specifically for the US versus like the world, and it's also like again, it's very negative. And so I do think that there's a lot of negativity surrounding Mexico specifically. It's dangerous, and it's just like so many different things, right, that we can probably get into different things. And one of the things, or sorry, a couple of values that we want to like exhibit in this channel, in the platform in general, is authenticity with us both, but also with our experiences. So like with what Rebecca was saying, the good, the bad, the ugly, right? Like not everything is going to be amazing, and not everything I think is truly bad. So it just talking about everything we experience that is really good, everything we experience that is really bad, and letting you guys know about that wholeheartedly. And then curiosity, because I think it's important to stay curious versus just receive information and assume whatever that info is. So, I'm going in with Mexico. I don't think it's bad. Like, I think that there are obviously dangerous places in Mexico,
as there are here.
Just like there are in everywhere in the world. Like, there is no country, I think, that isn't dangerous.
There's one saying, if I may interject, that my French professor said perfectly when I was in France. There's no such thing as a dangerous people. There's only a dangerous situation. And that is very true. Like, if you happen to be in a specific time or place, like, a bad thing can happen to you, because we're humans, we're flawed. People do bad things. But I very adamantly, strongly feel against ever blanket stating an entire culture or people as dangerous.
Yeah, or like a whole country, or a whole city.
So incredibly problematic, and is often tied to like relations of power that are not discussed openly in like the media.
Yeah.
So, and I deal with this a lot because like as part of being an intellectual, you have to talk about these really tough questions, and this is like very delicate information, and also like I think should be more accessible to an open public. Like one of my great things in life, or one of my goals in life, is like I do believe that education should be more accessible. Like a person shouldn't have to pay $60,000 to go to college, like and be in debt for the rest of your life. Maybe doing something you may or may not use, but at the same time, like some of the information that universities do deliver is so crucial to understanding the world. So, but this is a side tangent. It's just one of the very big, important motivations and like parts of this, platform.
Yeah. So again, staying curious. With that said, like when we go to Mexico, I gotta reel it in. You gotta keep it, because we had another one. We had another one we got to bring in. So it's authenticity between us both and our experiences. Staying curious, because it's important to. This is not just with Mexico. This is like anywhere in the world. Like you want to go in, just to experience it as it should. Like you shouldn't go in trying to make it something that fits your comforts. Like it's important to go in, stay curious, maybe go a little bit outside your comfort zone, and you may discover something new about yourself that you didn't know and all this stuff, or you may discover something new about a culture that, again, shapes your perspective differently. So we want to make sure we stay curious on this channel and as individuals. And then the other one was just like adventure in general, like making sure we're really, taking advantage of the opportunity to share this adventure with you guys and beyond. I know we went on a little bit of a tangent, but
I also think like the world is so big, and so it's important to like see other things. Many, like, it's hard, like not everyone has these opportunities happen, and also no shaming the resort life, because I think there's a time and place for that. Like I just don't think it's everything. And so having the ability to like do something where you Airbnb it literally bless the internet for these possibilities. Like before it was a hotel, and now, I mean, hostels have always existed, but so
it's just new
it's definitely adventure, like to experience different things in life. And if at the moment, like you want to do this later in life, maybe you get inspired to just like save a little cash and give yourself a little week trip wherever the hell you want to go. So life is short, and the pandemic has been here very clearly to show us all. And so definitely adventure.
Because again, it's just crazy how big the world is. Like we've been very very grateful and lucky to be able to go to numerous places in the US. We've gone to Mexico before and other places. We've gone to Europe, like in England and France. And again, like that's amazing, right? Like very, very blessed for that. And
But it also feels like not enough.
well, I know that, but my point in bringing it up is like because we've gone to those places, it shows us how big the world really is. And when you really, you look at all those places I just said, right? And we think the world is so big just from those experiences. We barely scratched probably 1% of the whole world, like barely getting in there. So, obviously being able to go to Mexico City and actually live there and embrace that, and live in Spain, which is a whole other beast, and then explore a little bit, in both places is going to be huge. And yeah, we're really excited for it. We're really excited to do this podcast with you guys, to be able to kind of talk candidly about it, and our experiences and pretty much what you could expect if you're curious. We might try to do one next week where we talk a little bit about packing and whatnot, and leaving this apartment a little bit more in depth. And then thereafter that, maybe we'll try to do one more before we leave for Mexico, depending on our situation. But
in Arizona, maybe we'll meet my parents.
yeah, in Arizona, who knows? Because we don't really know. Again, things are going to happen. But once we get to Mexico, we are planning on trying to do like a once a week, like Sunday morning, Buenos Dias podcast, where again we just kind of talk candidly about our experiences each week and so on. So, any final thoughts?
No, I'm feeling super grateful, and hopefully, like, again, this is us talking, but it's very much like geared towards whatever you guys want to hear. Comments, like, we're going to be talking about experiences, but let us know of anything that you're interested in. Specifically, like, we covered a lot today, and there's only like so much, like there's little tidbits of information that could be elaborated on. So let us know. And yeah, we're super grateful. We're super excited, and hopefully we can have like a little community here. We hope to also have like a chat. I mean, we already have it, but like, if you guys are interested, like, you can easily communicate in that chat as we live stream and have this podcast. And we're excited, and we're excited to maybe do it next week, and stay tuned for like our videos, and follow us on our individual pages. We also make independent content.
Just follow us on all the socials. It'll be in the description. And I was gonna say something, I lost my train of thought. I was gonna say, to Rebecca's point with the comments, obviously you can let us know if there's anything specifically in this video that you want us to elaborate on in a future podcast, but you can also just let us know some overall video topics that you may want to see an actual video about, because we will also be trying to do regular videos pretty routinely as well. So either way, stay tuned. We're excited about it. Thank you guys for watching, listening, whatever you did. And I know it's kind of candid right now, a little bit all over the place, but we still did it. We're excited about it. And
have buenos dias. Have a good day.
We're excited to continue this. So thank you again. We'll see you in the next Buenos Dias podcast.
See ya.
Adios.